The laughter started the day the bricks arrived. A rusty pickup truck stopped in front of the widow's small cabin in the snowy hills of Montana, and workers unloaded stacks of red clay bricks, metal pipes, and strange flat stone slabs that looked nothing like the wood stoves people in the valley were used to seeing. The neighbors gathered along the dirt road, watching with curious smiles as the elderly widow directed the work with quiet determination. Someone joked that she was building a strange foreign oven in the middle of her bedroom. Others laughed and whispered that the old woman must have lost her mind trying to survive winter with such a strange idea. But while the wind howled through the pine trees and snow slowly covered the valley, the widow kept building. By the time the first heavy blizzard arrived, the unusual structure inside her cabin was complete. The neighbors still laughed whenever they passed her house. None of them believed that the strange Chinese bed stove she built would change everything once the brutal winter arrived. Before we continue this powerful and emotional story, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel if you believe in silent heroes and second chances. Sometimes the quietest people carry knowledge that the world has forgotten. The widow's name was Grace Whitaker, an 82-year-old Christian woman who had lived most of her life in the mountains near a small town called Evergreen Valley, Montana. Grace had once lived there with her husband, Samuel Whitaker, a gentleman who loved building things with his hands. Samuel spent years studying old construction methods from around the world, fascinated by how different cultures learned to survive harsh climates long before modern technology existed. Their cabin sat at the edge of a forested hillside overlooking the valley. It was a simple home made of thick pine logs with a stone chimney rising through the roof. For decades, the cabin had been warm and welcoming, especially during winter when Samuel kept the fire burning almost constantly. But 10 years earlier, Samuel passed away peacefully after a long illness. After that day, the cabin felt much colder. Grace still loved the place deeply, but surviving the long Montana winters alone became more difficult every year. Heating the house required large amounts of firewood, and the cold air creeping through the floorboards made nights especially uncomfortable. During one particularly harsh winter, Grace discovered something remarkable while reading through Samuel's old notebooks. Among his sketches and notes about building techniques, she found drawings of a traditional heating system used for centuries in northern China and Korea. The system was known as a bed stove, sometimes called a heated platform. Instead of warming the entire house with open fire, the system directed heat from a small stove through channels built beneath a thick stone bed. The warm air traveled through the stone structure before exiting through a chimney, gently heating the entire platform. The design allowed people to sleep comfortably on the warm surface while using far less fuel than a normal fireplace. Samuel had written detailed notes about how such a system could work inside a small cabin like theirs. Grace studied the drawings carefully. At first, the idea seemed strange, even risky. But the more she read Samuel's notes, the more she believed the design might solve the problem she had struggled with for years. So the following autumn, Grace made a decision that surprised the entire valley. She began building the heated bed system inside her cabin. With help from a few hired workers, she installed brick channels beneath a large raised stone platform in the bedroom area. A small wood-burning stove connected to the system, allowing warm smoke and air to flow beneath the stones before exiting through the chimney. The construction looked unusual. Most neighbors had never seen anything like it. The flat stone bed took up nearly half the room, and the pipes beneath it formed a maze of heat channels. That was when the laughter began. Some neighbors believed Grace was wasting money on an idea that would never work. Others said she should simply install a normal furnace, like everyone else. But Grace remembered Samuel's quiet belief in traditional knowledge, and she trusted his notes. When winter arrived, the first snowstorm swept across Evergreen Valley with fierce winds and heavy snowfall. Temperatures dropped far below freezing, and most families in the valley began burning large amounts of firewood to keep their homes warm. Grace started a small fire in the stove connected to her new heating system. Slowly, the warm air moved through the brick channels beneath the stone platform. Within an hour, the entire surface of the stone bed became warm. Not hot or dangerous, just gently warm. By nighttime, the warmth had spread through the room, creating a steady, comfortable heat. Grace placed a thermometer on the wall to measure the temperature. The reading surprised even her. Inside the cabin, the temperature stayed close to 87 degrees Fahrenheit, even while the outside air remained far below freezing. The system worked far better than she had imagined. Even more remarkable, the stove required only a small amount of firewood to maintain the warmth. While other homes burned through piles of logs each week, Grace used less than half the amount. Word slowly spread through Evergreen Valley as winter continued. Neighbors who once laughed became curious when they noticed something unusual. Smoke rarely came from Grace's chimney, yet her cabin always looked warm and comfortable. Eventually, a few neighbors asked if they could see the strange system for themselves. Grace welcomed them inside kindly. When they stepped into the cabin, the warm air surprised them immediately. Then she showed them the heated stone platform where the warmth quietly spread beneath the surface. Many people touched the stones in amazement. The heat felt gentle and steady, unlike the harsh blast of hot air from normal stoves. Before we reach the ending of this inspiring story, take a moment to comment the word wisdom below if you believe old knowledge sometimes holds the answers to modern problems. Because the system Grace built inside her small cabin did more than keep her warm. It reminded the entire valley that wisdom from the past can still guide the future. By the end of that winter, several families in Evergreen Valley began building their own heated stone platforms using the same design Samuel had once studied. And the widow whose strange Chinese bed stove once made people laugh had quietly changed how an entire mountain community survived the cold.